Hi, my name is Sheila Corona. Welcome back to Handbook for the New Paradigm. We are in volume 3. For those of you following along with me in the book, we're on page 375. Beginning this morning with session number 47. The situation as it now exists, as perceived reality, is viewed by each individual through the screen of previous influences. And there's no other way to do that. That's why we are individuated points of awareness of a divinity that is ineffable. It's unexplainable. It's so vast and deep. These messages are literally sifted through the belief systems of each individual in a format that is acceptable to each as reality. As what is acceptable is incorporated within the current belief system, this then creates a new reality format. This is a constant and ongoing process with regard to all information received from all sources. And I have to say that the more present I practice being within my being, the more open to that information, that data that's carried through all of creation. How much change happens within each reality format depends upon the flexibility of the individual psyche. Oh, that makes sense. What is gleaned from the messages as acceptable information varies with each individual. What segments seem especially important to one individual will not necessarily seem important to another, and that is absolutely makes perfect sense as well. Again, feeling back into the whole being experienced, viewed by each individual through the screen of previous influences, meaning your experiential filter, what I call the experiential filter. This is the reason that each is encouraged to read and reread the information. Well, I highly recommend it too. And I've noticed over the last few years of having a book club group that because of my recording these materials and sometimes recording them twice and 3 times, I see, sense, feel, gather, and grok different things at different times when in company with others. I feel it's because of the information and the data that they carry in their field, and whether they open their mouths or not. On some level, there's a grokking that can be had there. I don't know how to explain that, but it's there. So I'm going to reread this. This is the reason that each is encouraged to read and reread the information. As the reader accepts portions of the information as possibly true, the accepted reality format of the moment changes. Yeah, the truth is, once I saw that I have to make a whole bunch of assumptions that I myself cannot prove one way or the other in order to form an absolute opinion about an awful lot of things that I've held in a particular light all of my life. Once I saw that, I could not unsee that. It changes everything. And I feel like this is what this is referring to here. very similar type, different perspectives of what is indicated through the wording are perceived and either accepted as possibilities or rejected with each reading. With repeated readings, different information stands forth as especially meaningful and in turn stimulates new understandings as the mind brain process is activated through consideration of different possibilities. It is a program designed to awaken and enhance the natural latent abilities yet to be tapped and to reawaken those that have been shut down by the mind control procedures. All have been experiencing in increasing degrees for far longer than this century. That's true. I realize I'm 63, and all of a sudden I realize that a whole lot of things that I took for granted as just truth were in reality things I was raised to believe were true, but I had no real solid personal experience with. And so that makes it an assumption. For me, that equals assumption. And when making discernments for self, I don't I don't care to do that based on an assumption. And that has been going on for centuries. All of us have done it to each other. The process that is begun by reading and assimilating those facets of information that are accepted into the belief system causes a shift in the thought process that reaches into other areas of the life experience. That is so true. One thing tumbles right into the next. While it is focused toward birthing a new paradigm of experience for the human experience on this planet, it brings with it other changes that will benefit those choosing to incorporate greater flexibility into their concept of experience within a body. This is true. I truly feel like that's a true statement right there. Because nothing is as it seems. Not one thing is what I've been told so far, as my experiment has begun to prove to me. Experiencing an active role in the creation process at the present density of Earth's vibratory level requires the ability to acknowledge internalize, analyze, and express emotions within the purposeful intention of living within the quote, highest and best good of all concerned. This is setting up interaction that ripples outwardly in far reaching effects beyond the infinite mind's ability to comprehend. It is the release of the format of experience that must limit to control that has its basis in fear. Boy, that's so true. Control is believed to offset fear in order that change can be slowed and a modicum of, quote, peaceful existence can be experienced. However, the control mode requires more control measures to support the original limits and is a self-perpetuating, negatively expanding cycle. It is the mode that has been adopted by those who would own and, quote, control this planet and its inhabitants. The intention to create within the universal laws focused for, quote, the highest and best good for all concerned deliberately invokes change. It is through the release of this intention into the laws that change flows within a coordinated cycle that is logical and effortless. It is within this context that, quote, freedom is experienced. Now, boy, I can feel that to be a true statement right there. When the desire of more and more points of divinity actually move to the highest and best good for all concerned. Because sometimes the highest and best good for all concerned isn't comfortable and it isn't pleasant, but it's the best and the highest for all concerned. But there is a sense of freedom in that. It frees up the universe to do what it needs to do to facilitate that creative flow. That's how I experience what I just read there. I'm going to read that again. It is through the release of this intention into the laws that change flows within a coordinated cycle that is logical and effortless. It is within this context that freedom is experienced. When all are included, then abundance is experienced in myriad different modes. Freedom encourages and allows diversity of expression, whereas control demands conformity and limitation. This is so true. Both of these are contrary to the natural desires of self-aware consciousness. This is because those that attain this higher state of awareness have done so by aligning themselves with the flow of greater self-contemplation that is at the basis of potentiality, knowing itself through the expression of thought into experience and into wisdom. It is through wisdom, knowledge acquired by living actual realized experience, that greater freedom is realized. Man, and at 63 years old, I have plenty of incidences in my life that I can look back on and see that I held in a particular sort of light in one way at one time in my life. Saw myself as a victim. I now understand so much more about all of those points of moments of, and now it makes so much sense to me why that experience was to be gleaned. And there's so much greater freedom in that, in all of that. Living that experience into wisdom. This is the reason that life on a third dimensional planet is honored and desired by units of self-awareness. To quote, know greatly accelerates the evolution of the greater soul matrix, of which each is an intricate, interactive part. Through this process, a greater understanding of who and what each one is becomes gradually acknowledged and realized. This carefully discovered self-realization is the foundation of all progress. Each recognition adds to the basic understanding, the knowing that each is an essential aspect of the essence of the whole. This whole is incomplete until the totality of it is gathered into the awareness of the true nature of whatever adventure is the focus to be thoroughly investigated and understood in this grand cycle. Forever is incomprehensible. Quote, now is the only segment of power available to the conscious awareness. Third dimensional awareness continues to focus on the past and the future, which removes the consciousness from participation in the only available point of influence. This is an important statement here. Past memory is meant to serve as an informational source to prevent repetition of previous inappropriate experience. Makes sense. Experiencing consequences, remembering how that went down, and not wishing to repeat it. Thank you very much. Right? Is what I see that to be. The future is an unknowable point that is available to receive the experience that will manifest based on intentions and actions made in the now of the current moment. This unknown future cannot be different than what is being experienced in the current circumstances if there is no one present in the proactive moment acting in the creative, intentional thought mode. It has been pointed out that if all the past and future thought was subtracted from the total human focused thought on this planet at any given second, there are very few people actually present. I I so feel like that is so true. I do. I feel like that is so true. It is something to contemplate carefully. The question then arises as to what is the difference between being absent in future thought and in intending a change to manifest in the future. When a conscious awareness is intending a creative thought, that awareness is experiencing as if it were actually present in the midst of the intended creation. In other words, the future intention is being pulled into the present moment as if it already exists. The imagination has that individual either pictorially or emotionally or in both modes experiencing what is intended as if it already exists in the present moment. How is that possible if only the basic framework is known? The answer is to pretend that it is known and play with what it might actually be like. Even if only one tiny segment of the whole is examined in the exercise of the imagination, and enough are simulating this, then a whole will formulate. The thought thinking segment will coordinate and revise the complexities. Okay, I'm being shown something here. Earlier on, when I said that I noticed that I gather things, I get more, I grok more from the material when sharing it in company. It is the thought thinking within itself, within each's fields, that interacts with my field, being a projector in the human design. Wow, that's very interesting. Oh, that was a whole little download there. The thought thinking segment will coordinate and revise the complexities into a balanced and harmonious format that will exceed all expectations. that is so cool that that was shown to me in that particular way, too. The birth of the new paradigm of experience will begin the change by reorganizing mankind's daily happenings. Once we learn to open our minds to the possibilities, the potentialities that creation are available to us as we do create our own reality. Man, those that are the instruments of this change will desire big changes to happen quickly. However, small changes in many places and in many different occurrences will begin the shift. I really do feel like that is also part of why it feels like, at least in the early days, that people who felt the same way were so dispersed throughout the world and not anywhere close to where you might could get together for a cup of tea or something, a cup of coffee. It is more difficult to plug many small holes in a wall of plans than a few large ones. Subtle energy at work in many places leads to profound change. Trust the process. So imagine, if you will, this is something else that I've been being shown right now here again, and I've been shown this in other words here within these books. If each moves towards what brings them joy, what if that is the only, I don't want to even say requirement, but if doing that moves one along their path, the path they agreed to come here to fulfill, to because this whole thing about it being more difficult to plug many small holes in a wall of plans than a few large ones, especially if people don't even know they're part of a plan. They're just following what they feel led to do because that is what the plan. And it would be so perfect because there's no reading any of that. There's no telling if that's part of an actual plan. So that's the end of number 47. I'll be right back with number 48. I hope you're enjoying this. We are rather late in the game here. It is almost over. All of these are in their own playlist. If you're just finding this one for the first time, just look on the channel under playlists and you'll find number 1 and then number 2 and then number 3, all in different playlists. And so, till next time, be well, my friends.